switch for a moment and I want to show you guys the video. Now, this is a video that was passed around that became, I hate to use the word now viral, but it became viral. And it features, I don't know who he is, he's a rabbi. And so it got sent to me, through my circles as well. And you've probably seen it, whether you are Jewish or not Jewish. And by the way, I'm trying to as I said, this is meant to be about full transparency and honesty. If I'm sick, I'm going to continue doing this. No matter what happens, I'm not going to stop doing this. So I want this to be consistent as well. And one of the things is, that being Jewish is I'm going to talk about whatever's going on in my life at the moment. But at the same time, if you're not Jewish and you want to send me a clip, whether it's a priest, whether it's your imam, I'm happy to share it, and I'm happy to make this as inclusive and representative as possible. But the reason why I want to show it to you, I'm just going to show you the first 2 minutes of it, and then so watch it, and then I'm going to comment on it as well. So I'll be sharing my screen momentarily. And by the way, for those of you that are looking to start using Zoom, etc., one of the things you're going to want to do is make sure that you close as many tabs as possible, because sometimes it becomes quite hard to actually find the video, but here it is. Let me show that to you.
We live in a time of great technological advances. We live in a time where we believe almost blindly, almost religiously, in the powers of science and scientists, and experts, doctors, and yet we are suddenly finding ourselves without a solution, without a clue. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know how to respond. We don't know how to control it. We don't even know what it is. And it's very good for the soul to be reminded that we have not mastered the universe. We have not conquered nature. We still have a long way to go for that. Now, there are people who actually say, and they say, why would God allow such a virus? Why would God allow such a pandemic? Why would he allow it? What is that suggesting? It's as if some things happen and God intervenes, but then there are other things that happen and God doesn't intervene. Nothing happens unless God makes it happen. Everything that happens, happens for a divine purpose and a divine reason. Otherwise, it cannot happen. Everything we're going to experience is going to be divinely orchestrated for our benefit. The world is shutting down all its practices. What is our schedule made of? We go here, we go there, we do a little of this and we do a little of that, and then we come home and we've had it. All of a sudden, without anyone saying a word, no theater, no partying, no traveling, no going anywhere. All our habits have now been canceled. We have been freed and liberated from our Mitzrayim. We are so caught up in these things that we actually started to believe that that's what life is about. Life is about going to school, going to work, going to parties, going to a theater, going for some entertainment, going for some shopping. That's life. Now we're seeing it's not.
I'm not going to talk about the divine aspect of it, right? I'm not going to talk about that element. I'm going to talk about the fact that we are witnessing, we are in the middle of something that is forever changed our lives and changing our lives. And I've mentioned some elements of this, in the past, which is, shame on us if we aren't able to rise up to make the most of this. Is it a good thing that's happening? This video talks about, and this rabbi in particular talks about this being a good thing. I don't know when you're in the middle of it, if it's possible to make that that determination. He seems to think so, or he's finding the good in it. And I think there's something really important in doing that as well, to find the good, to find the positive, to find the optimism, to find the silver lining at the end of the day. Sometimes it's really hard to see that silver lining when you're, knee deep or up to your ears in pain or in crisis or in chaos as well. But we need to think about what's happening here, and we need to be able to see it now and take stock of it now, and be able to remember where we were when, and diarize even every minute, every moment, and make sure, because I tell you one thing, the thing that I'm scared of after all of this, because there's going to be a lot of rebuilding, and there's going to be a lot of getting back, to almost square one. But we cannot allow ourselves to make the same mistakes as a person, as an individual, as a manager, as a leader. We cannot make the same mistakes again, because what a waste it would have been otherwise. And in a way, in a weird, almost perverted sort of way, I think what that allows us to do is to be able to cope with it better by finding a purpose, or by finding some kind of meaning in it. No matter how hard it is, no matter how painful it is, and no matter how much of a stretch it might be. Now, the religious part of it and the faith-based part of it is putting your faith in a higher power. It certainly feels better to be able to think that there's got to be a reason for this. Things happen for a reason. I don't know what they are. I'm not sure what they are. I'm unable to process what it is, but I know it's there. And I may never know what it is, but I feel a little bit more comforted knowing that there is a grander scheme or a bigger scheme in play. Whether you put that faith and trust in a higher power, or whether you put it in your fellow man or woman, or whether you just in fact believe that there is some kind of method to the madness. I can tell you personally, what scares me even more is that this is just completely random, because that freaks me out completely, to think that somehow some random person just happened to go into some wet market and bit into some random bat that happened to be sick, and now this. That scares me. The opposite, the good opposite of that, the corollary of that is winning the lottery. Not just the lottery, but the Powerball. Not just the Powerball, but in fact, the ultimate Powerball. So imagine $1 billion winning Powerball. The odds of you being that person to win that $1 billion Powerball is probably the same odds as one person walking into a wet market and biting into an infected bat. And it can happen. Lightning may not strike the same place twice, but you are either extremely lucky or unlucky if you are hit by lightning, or if you are just missed being hit by lightning. And so that's what I take away from the video, right? Again, you can compartmentalize the higher power and the spiritual aspect of it and the God aspect of it, but then there's something else in the video that's so interesting, which is, I heard this the other day from another author and speaker, that we are exhibiting and witnessing two counter trends, extreme counter trends at the same time. The world has become hyper local and hyper global at the same time. Every single person in the world right now is on the same page, or at least, and maybe not the same page about staying in or not, but in terms of experiencing and witnessing and living through and being part of this COVID-19, this coronavirus global pandemic. And the world is one, and the world is completely together in terms of coping with it, a variety of ways, but still coping with it. But at the same time, completely hyper local. Your country, your city, your town, your neighborhood, your home, it is about as local as life has ever been, where you are an army of one or a household of four, and then again on the flip side, part of this this tribe, this part of humanity right now going through this. So that was another thing. And then the final part of that video is this idea that we're all just shutting down. Everything is shut down. Last night, I watched an Instagram live of a friend of mine, George, who was walking his puppy, his dog, through the streets of Manhattan. And it was about maybe 10:30 at night. And he actually, the goal was to take his dog all the way to the front of Trump Tower and take a dump right at the doors of Trump Tower and leave it there and not even clean it up. That was his particular goal. But as he was going through this, the streets were absolutely empty. It was so eerie. It was so surreal. It was so scary. It was so scary. I kept on saying, like, trying to contact him and saying, surely there's another person out there. There got to be at least 3 people walking their dogs as well. And there was no one. In the end, maybe 3 or 4 people over a period of 10 to 15 minutes. When did we ever think that would happen to New York City? When did we think that would ever happen to New York City? It's insane. It's unprecedented. It may never happen again. And then on the flip side, just think about, this idea that as we have shut down and insulated, and some people have taken to, expressing themselves a variety of ways, creatively, or how people are coping, prioritization is, this is the moment where we sit and we say, was it all worth it? In terms of the stuff we did before, the stuff that upset us, the stuff that angered us, the road rage, our priorities, being pissed off because maybe there was some emergency alert that ended up, encroaching into your episode of The Bachelor. By the way, what is the social distancing version of the next Bachelor or Bachelor in Paradise going to look like? That's going to be kind of interesting. I'm not really sure how that's going to work. But priorities, I know I said I'm not going to do shout outs for you now unless people actually say hello. But I just saw my buddy Ritesh just joined as well. I mean, how angry he's seen me get about my team Spurs. Was it worth it? Was it worth it to spend so much time to devote 2 hours every week to watching a team play, when in actual fact I could have been doing other things or better things, or maybe being smarter about those things, like getting on the treadmill while watching my team play as well. So I'll pause for a second, and I will do just a few shout outs of people that did come in and did say hello. David Kaplan, and who else? And Jason Siv and Crystal, welcome back. And Jeff Minsky said, did you see his picture of the Kotel? Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was incredible. But it's everywhere around the world. These icons, these quite literally, these meccas, these moments, these monuments and these places of worship, and these tourist attractions and these wonders of the world, and they're all completely deserted. So you have that, and then on the flip side, you have all of this ability now for us, I think, to take stock and to question everything. Why wouldn't we Why wouldn't we question everything? Well, I think what I want to add to all of that is this idea of this concept of leveling the playing fields. You know, as a guy who works on the business side, the marketing side, and a very, very early adopter and innovator in the digital space, we always spoke about digital leveling the playing fields, how David would be able to take on Goliath, how we would be able to, for the first time, allow the little guy to compete, the small business owner, the entrepreneur, the craftsman would be able to take on the giants using e-commerce. And that was the original promise of digital. And now we're witnessing another, so to speak, leveling, you know, of the playing fields. And I made a few points that I just want to share with you as we come up to 2:30. And as I said to you, the new format is I'll close down the Facebook stream and we'll move over to Zoom. Whomever wants to move over, you can see the link above. Come on in. You don't have to say anything. You don't even have to. I'd prefer you to just, you know, to be able to see you on camera. But that's where we'll chat for about, you know, 30 minutes afterwards. So first of all, the leveling of playing fields, Wall Street and Main Street. You know, I'm not going to get into the stimulus bill and who it benefits, etc. But what I did want to talk about, you know, is this idea. I'll show you, you know, the image here, which I think is an amazing, powerful one. And just to make sure that, because I'm a little bit tape delayed, as you will, I'll show it. So I'm sure you guys have seen that, right? Scientists, doctors, nurses, first responders. I would probably add educators as well, teachers as well to that list. So this rebalancing of Wall Street and Main Street, so to speak, and I don't mean quite literally, but what I do mean and what I am referring to is you might have been the most powerful trader or most powerful investment banker in a sense, and everything is closed and a huge chunk of your wealth has been stripped away from you. Who are the heroes now? The heroes are our teachers and our first responders and our essential services. And yes, the superhero is the supermarket, the clerk or the cashier in the supermarket. These are the people that are keeping our lives going, and maybe not keeping the economy going, but certainly attempting to keep us in the game as well. I thought about the fact that, you know, we in the US, we wax lyrical about our founding fathers. And I wondered, maybe, I actually wrote an article a while back and I said, if our founding fathers were the founder fathers, meaning if they were alive today, what would they say? Are they rolling around in their graves looking at the way we're behaving at the best of times? But if they were alive today, would they be founders, like entrepreneurs, more so than founding fathers? Would they apply the same entrepreneurial spirit to pivoting, to innovating, to disrupting, to being able to say, if it is broke, let's fix it right now? Would they be the same, you know, as they were then, but updated for a new era with new rules? Or to even be able to go back and say, some of the things that we thought made sense at the time don't make sense now. Perhaps we need to do a little bit of a reboot or a refresh. So I wondered if maybe we should be thinking about this idea of not the founding fathers, but the refounding fathers. Maybe it's time for a new set of fathers, and clearly not just fathers, but mothers and gay lovers, and a truly representative makeup of a different snapshot and a different aspect of who is America. And I use that intentionally because Who is America, of course, is what, you know, is the show that Sacha Baron Cohen did as well. Who are the next set of leaders? Who are the next set of heroes? Who are the next set of founders? Maybe they're coming from Main Street less as opposed to Wall Street. And the final point that I just wanted to make as it relates to this topic, from the video to this idea of the leveling of playing fields. And this is a tough one, and it's a cathartic one too. But, you know, if you know, this is think about a fresh start. In some cases, we're going to be forced to start again. In some cases, we're not going to have an alternative. Over 3 million people filed unemployment last week. So in some cases, we're being forced to have to rethink and reinvent and start again. And I thought to myself, if you had a tough time coming into this, well, you've been given this perfect start. If you were struggling before, if you were unhappy before in your job, if you were miserable, if you weren't making ends meet, in a way, the playing fields have been leveled. And you are no better off or worse off than your neighbor to your left and then your neighbor to your right. Think about that. And if you ever wanted to start again, but couldn't, oh, I can't, I'm too old, oh, I can't, I'm too ingrained, I'm too established, I'm due for that promotion. If you were in a position before where you just couldn't break out from that inertia, you know, or were too afraid to take a risk, well, then this is your start, your fresh start. Sometimes the only way to start again is to be pushed. It's not going to be voluntary because we don't like change. We resist change. We reject change. We're too afraid to take a chance and take a risk. But now, maybe for the first time, we have that ability. And Jeff Minsky, you're going to have the last word, my friend. You're so snarky. He said, unless the neighbor to your right or left is the CEO of Zoom, in which case, yeah, sure. But remember, Jeff, remember, you know, I'll take your snark and I'll give it right back to you. So we end off today on a smile. You think you're rich, someone's richer. You think you're poor, someone's poorer, right? You think you're sick, someone's sicker. And whatever it is in life, it's all relative as well. I don't know that I want to be the CEO of Zoom. I don't know that I want to be Zuckerberg. I don't know that I've ever wanted to be either of them as well. But that's the refresh. And that's the ability for us to introspect and reprioritize and determine what exactly it is that motivates us. Is it fame? Is it fortune? Is it money? Is it how many views are going to be on here? Crystal just said, I think of course you're a regular here, Crystal, and I hope you like this new format. 30 minutes of some kind of a more of a linear show, but with a little bit of interactivity. And now, everybody, if you want to continue this discussion and give me your feedback as to what you heard today, all you got to do is click on the link above. It's the same link every day, and come on over to Zoom. And so with that said, I am going to stop the recording and move over to my at the moment, band of brothers, but we hopefully will have some sisters joining.